WJR, Donald Trump thinks he can win Michigan. That's a big deal. We know that he thinks this because he's making 2 visits here this week, and time is short. It is going to be very, very close in Michigan, and every decision counts. Will this one?
Well, I've already done 2 debates, and they, were good. But to do a third one, everybody's voting now, and it's very late to be doing a third debate.
Or how about this one?
If you're not successful this time, do you see yourself running again in 4 years?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I think that will be it. I don't see that at all.
So he has declined to debate Kamala Harris again. Will that cost him? And he has said, I'm not running if I lose again. So it's all or nothing now. Will that get his supporters out? Will that persuade independents who are on the fence thinking if they like Trump's policies, this is the last shot at having him as president? Let's bring in David Dulio, Distinguished Professor of Political Science Department and Director of the Center for Civic Engagement at Oakland University. Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm well, Kevin. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. The debate, I like debates. I wish there were, 3 or 4 of them. I think, I know Trump said he had 2, but one was with Biden, one was with Harris. I think there could be some really good follow-up to the first debate if the moderators were interested in doing that. So I feel like this is a loss for the American people. I also just don't know if anybody cares that much.
Well, you could very well be right on that last point there, Kevin. I think that the number of persuadable or gettable voters that's out there is shrinking and is very small at the moment. However, your introductory comments pointed out very correctly that this is going to be very, very close, especially in a place like Michigan. So every one of those dwindling number of independent or persuadable voters is an important vote that could go to either candidate's column. And I tend to agree with you that debates are important. They are another way that voters can gather information about these candidates outside of the scripted and produced television commercials that we are inundated with these days. And I think it's a missed opportunity for the Trump campaign.
Do you think he would have done it if if she would have agreed to go on Fox?
Let's say that the chances are higher. I think that, frankly, it's not hard to reason why Trump may not want to do this one on CNN, given the experience that he had with the folks from ABC, and frankly his lack of trust in those networks to identify what he would consider fair moderators.
Yeah, he was happy with the CNN debate with Biden, or he said he was. Of course, he knocked Biden out of the race at that one. Right. It's probably easier to be happy when you win decisively. Does Kamala Harris lose any points by not going on Fox, or is that message just not getting out there? Is the headline or the media's take on all of this is just that Trump won't do it?
I think that it's much more the latter. I don't think she loses much. She has, and in fact, it's because of the strategy behind her campaign to this point, which has really been to avoid those kinds of interactions. And whether that's good for the voters is another question. But the question for the Harris campaign is, has it worked? And the answer to that is yes, it has worked so far. And unless something changes, I think it will continue to work.
So how close is Michigan, and how important is Michigan? When you look at the Electoral College, everyone was talking Pennsylvania for a while, but maybe because they thought Michigan was going to go blue. If one state goes in a different direction, it kind of can change everything.
Yeah, the Electoral College is this Rubik's Cube of outcomes and or I should say possible outcomes, right? Where if one state happens to, let's say, if Arizona votes for Trump this time, what does that do to Harris's path to 270 in those other states? I think we won't really know until election night when dominoes start to fall, right? I mean, you have North Carolina and Georgia, and then up the upper Midwest here, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. I think that Michigan is going to be razor thin, and it shows no other signs for anything else. And, it really is going to be determined by those last remaining persuadable voters, and then on Election Day and in the couple weeks before, just turnout.
What does Donald Trump use these two visits to talk about? Because, look, the crime is something that is turning in Trump's favor, especially in some of these inner cities around the country. The border has been a big issue. The economy obviously is the number one issue. In Michigan, and Southeast Michigan in particular, the auto industry is everything as it relates to the economy.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, that there's no question that inflation, high prices, the economy are probably at the top of the list. He was here not too long ago and talked about electric vehicles. That's a tougher issue, I think. It's interesting. The Detroit News had a poll a few weeks ago that showed how Michigan is sort of split on the issue. On the one hand, they think we, as a state and as a nation, should try to be a leader in the production of EVs, but they don't want to drive them. They don't want to buy them. So it's a bit of a paradox
right
there. But I think so that could cut a little different way. And I think for me, I think immigration is probably more of where he can make some inroads.
I think about auto workers in unionized auto workers may go for Trump. In fact, the fact that the Teamsters didn't endorse anybody seems like an endorsement of Trump to me. But obviously, like, auto workers in a union are much different than teachers in a union who are likely to stick with Harris no matter what.
Oh, I think that's true, and I think that's not even just a hypothesis, that we've seen evidence of that in 2016, maybe to a lesser extent in 2020. But I also think that Teamsters non-endorsement is important. It's certainly not insignificant. And you look at the internal surveys that they've done with their members, and those numbers have started to leak out about how a majority of Teamsters plan to vote for Trump, and that certainly is telling.
I was talking to a longtime teacher just last night. They are like a year away from retiring, and they were saying that they are all in on Trump right now because they don't like the direction the schools have had. And they were telling me about, like in attendance, they have to, if they're not careful to get the right pronoun or whatever the student that week is interested in being calling correct, they end up in the office in trouble, and they just feel like the schools have changed dramatically. And I just have really never heard a longtime union teacher talk like that before.
That is certainly a rarity. I think one of the things that Trump has mentioned in the past is the possibility of doing away with the Department of Education at the federal level. That would be almost uncharted waters for U.S. education, and whether or not that would come to fruition is another story. But if it were to, right? I mean, that's the how does that change the dynamic of the kinds of things that your conversation turned up last night?
Yeah. All right. David Giulio, Distinguished Professor of Political Science Department and Director for the Center of Civic Engagement at Oakland University. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're listening to All Talk on WJR.